Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Grace Holland. WRAL Investigates is continuing to look into problems with dentistry in the state of North Carolina. You may remember a couple of weeks ago we talked about several deaths at dentists' office related to anesthesia. Now the state's dental board is warning that shoddy dentist work is becoming more common. WRAL Investigates Sarah Kruger joins me now. Sarah, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So this was a story that you shared at 6:15 on WRAL News on Wednesday. Just for people who maybe haven't seen the TV story yet, what kind of shoddy work are we seeing here in North Carolina?
Yeah, so specifically the dental board is talking about work that is performed by people who are not dentists. So these are people who sometimes claim they're dentists or claim that they are certified, but really they're not. And they are doing all kinds of work on patients, from veneers to braces. And there are some wild stories that we've heard from the dental board. People doing dental work in sheds, in garages, in apartments, or coming to your house and giving you braces on your own couch, for example. So a lot of times the red flags are certainly there, and the people who are getting the work, the patients, maybe they think they're getting a really good deal financially, and that's what's motivating them to go through with these things. But the dental board is warning that it is not worth getting a deal on this stuff, because they've seen patients who get injured and patients who need some pretty costly repairs to fix this shoddy work.
Yeah, I mean, I just always felt like my parents who are in the medical field, they always talked about, like, you really don't want to mess with your teeth. It's something that's very, very important. And I know from experience, if you've ever had a toothache, having a toothache can be really debilitating as well. So, okay, how did you start digging into this issue and the other recent story that you did about anesthesia at the dentist office?
Yeah, so this particular story, this was something that my producer noticed on the dental board website. They had issued a warning about this, and that's because they're seeing a really big spike in this kind of situation in the last year and a half or so, just a lot more of these cases. And it's not confined just to a certain area of the state. It's really all over, and, not just in rural areas, not just in urban areas, but everywhere. And one interesting thing that the dental board told me is sometimes, yes, these people who are performing this dental work, sometimes they are people who are acting in bad faith and knowingly deceiving people. And other times, though, that's not quite the case. It's people maybe who were dentists in other countries and think that they can keep practicing here, not really realizing, they need a license here in the United States, in North Carolina. And sometimes the dental board also said it's people who did get some kind of certification and are under the impression that that affords them the ability to do more work than it actually does. So it's really a mix here, the dental board was saying, of, people who are doing this deceitfully, deceptively, and those who, are more innocent and not really meaning to be deceiving people, but are performing this work that is unauthorized.
Got it. And so, we mentioned in the intro that the dental board is concerned that this is becoming more common, but still, what is sort of the prevalence of these issues? Yeah,
so I would say, when I asked the dental board how many cases like this they're currently looking into, it was a little bit more than a dozen. And I asked, do you think you've got it? Is that the extent to what this is happening in North Carolina? And the CEO said, oh, no. I think we have the tip of the iceberg. So there's definitely more of this happening than they know about. They are a complaint-driven organization. So unlike a typical law enforcement agency that can just go out and look into things, investigate, this dental board, they need complaints to come to them first, and then they go out and respond to those complaints. So the way they become aware of these types of issues of phony dental work is because people contact them, like the victims say, hey, I thought I was getting real braces from a real orthodontist and it turns out I wasn't, and you should do something about this. Or he told me that another way they find out about it is those patients going then later to legitimate dentists or orthodontists and saying, can you fix what this other person did to me? They don't know of that many people who are doing this around the state in the grand scheme of things. But again, they do fear that they don't know the extent of it just yet.
Okay, let's take a quick break right there and we'll be right back. Sarah, before the break, you were talking about who these fake dentists sometimes are. Who are the people that they're targeting?
So anyone, really. The dental board CEO was telling me that most of the time, these customers or these patients, they find these practices, so to speak, or these, phony dentists through social media. So people who are on social media, I guess, would be the most susceptible to perhaps being lured in by one of these so-called deals. But it's happening all over the state. And really, from what I have been able to ascertain from the different victims and I've been able to find information on through court records, it's people of varying ages as well.
Okay. And what is the dental board doing to stop this from happening besides raising these alarm bells?
So the power that the dental board has by state statute is limited, but what they can do is they can try to stop this by filing injunctions. So filing court orders against these people to try to get them to stop practicing, quote unquote, dentistry. And what they also do is provide the information about these phony dentists to local authorities who can then pursue criminal charges if they want to. The dental board is a licensing board, so they can't pursue criminal charges. But of course, police or district attorneys, they could pursue criminal charges. So the dental board CEO told me, they pass along their information. And he said, a lot of the time, though, the local district attorneys, they choose not to pursue criminal charges simply because, as he put it, they have bigger fish to fry. But sometimes they do pursue charges. I found one case in my reporting where a woman came to a house to give a mother and her 2 daughters braces in their home. And, then they came forward after the fact and, realizing this woman was not, in fact, certified, although she had said she was. And the dental board filed an injunction against her after that to try to get her to stop. Well, then I found in court records that a year or so later, she was apparently at it again, doing the same types of things. So now she has current pending criminal charges against her for the unauthorized practice of dentistry, which is a misdemeanor, and in this case, even a felony charge, too, for obtaining property by false pretense. So it does happen that sometimes these people do face criminal charges.
And how can these patients, make sure that the dentist that they're seeing is reputable?
Yeah, so in some cases, as I mentioned, the red flags are there. People just think they're getting a deal and maybe that it's worth it. So the dental board's saying, first of all, it's not worth it. Secondly, on the cases that maybe are not as clear cut, where the red flags are not as clear, there's a couple things that the dental board recommends you can do. One, a licensed dentist is required to display their license in a visible location within their office. So you can look for that. You could ask to see that. And then another option, you can look on the dental board website. And from that website, you can search a dentist by name. You can make sure that they are, in fact, a licensed dentist and make sure that they don't have any previous violations or complaints against them. So it's just another way to do some vetting before you head to the dentist.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sarah. And thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. That's a daily email with Triangle news, events, and headlines to help you get ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.